Okay, this is for biology. I'm talking about the digestive system. Talked about the purposes of the digestive system, ingestion. Um, this is the digestion, absorption, and then elimination. Um, Next, let's talk specifically about ingestion. So it all starts with the teeth. This is where mechanical digestion starts, your teeth chomping up the food to make it smaller. Your salivary glands, that's where they're located. They contain an enzyme called amylase that starts the chemical digestion of your food. So when you think about this question, what triggers your salivary glands to secrete saliva? Just think about it for a second. Maybe think about one of your favorite foods. And you might even start salivating. So things that can trigger the saliva to start being secreted: actual food in the mouth, seeing the food, smelling the food, and even thinking about food can cause your saliva glands to starting secreting saliva. This is because saliva secretion is controlled by your nervous system. So that's why just even thinking about it or seeing it can trigger that. Okay, so once you swallow, the food is pushed down to the esophagus. Okay, now your esophagus, it's not that curved, okay, is just a narrow, flexible tube. The food bypasses or doesn't go through the windpipe or the trachea because you have this flap of tissue called the epiglottis. It closes off your windpipe so you don't put water or food down that. And that's why if you accidentally get food down the wrong pipe, right, you will cough until essentially you get it out of there. When the food is in the esophagus, it is referred to as a bolus. I should also note that before the food gets to the esophagus, it passes a part of your body called your pharynx. Passes pharynx. This is your throat. Okay, so essentially when you swallow, it goes through your throat. Also called it is your pharynx, and let's add a little bolus here, and it's pushed into this hollow tube called the esophagus. We'll make the food green. Okay, so there's the food in the esophagus. All right. Now, we're in the esophagus. What's going to happen is you have this contraction, it's called peristalsis, of the smooth muscle. Your esophagus is lined with smooth muscle that will push that bolus down towards the stomach. So let's draw it here. So here's our esophagus again. Okay, it actually punches through a muscle called the diaphragm, and let's draw our stomach here. So this is the stomach. You also have a little sphincter there. We'll draw the bolus again. Okay, so these contractions, these smooth muscle right here, will start to contract, essentially like a Go-Gurt, how you squeeze the yogurt out and up. You're squeezing that bolus, the smooth muscle squeezes it down towards the stomach. Your stomach, what happens in the stomach? The bolus mixes with the gastric juice in the stomach, and gastric juice will chemically digest the food. So it's acidic in there, and you have the juice called gastric juice. Also in there you have an enzyme called pepsin. Pepsin helps digest or break down proteins. Okay, Um, gastric reflux is a condition in which, I'll just go back, you can draw it too, but if we go back up here, there's a sphincter right here. Okay, it's like a little, oops, undo, a little door that is between the esophagus and the stomach. Gastric reflux, essentially, that little flap is weakened. So actually acid goes back up into the esophagus and causes irritation of the lining of the esophagus, creating pain, often termed heartburn. So when acid goes back up the esophagus from stomach due to poor, we'll just call it a flap for this class, flap function. Burning irritates and causes burning pain. This is like what some people call heartburn. It's not your heart that's burning. It is actually the acid that's coming up your throat. When the food is in your stomach and now has a new name, make sure you know that. It's called chyme. Your small intestine, it actually, oh, you don't need to draw a picture. After it leaves the stomach, that's where the food goes in next, the small intestine. The first part of the small intestine is called the duodenum. What happens when the food is in the duodenum? The chyme joins with bile, which is a secretion from the gallbladder / liver, and pancreatic juice, which is secreted from the pancreas. The small intestine, how long is it? I just forgot the exact measurements, so let's just Google it. I believe it's 6 meters or something. It's the small intestine. 7 meters, okay? So let's just do 6.5 to 7 meters long when it's stretched out there. In the small intestine is actually very important to absorbing nutrients. So this is where chemical digestion happens. Most of the chemical digestion of your food and absorption of those nutrients happens in the small intestine. So it's a good thing that it's so long because a lot of good things happen in the small intestine. And it takes about 3 to 5 hours for food to move all the way through the small intestine from the stomach to the small intestine. There are a few other organs that have roles in other body systems, but they also have a role in the digestive system. One of them is the pancreas. Its role in the digestive system is to produce enzymes that break down carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids that are in your food that you eat. It also produces sodium bicarbonate that helps neutralize the acid that's coming from your stomach. So the small intestine isn't as well protected from the acid as the stomach is, okay? So we need to reduce the acidic nature of it. The liver produces bile, and the gallbladder holds that bile that the liver produces. And that bile joins the secretions of the small intestine. What the bile does, it's kind of a greenish yellowish color. It breaks up globs of fat so that they're easier to digest. The lining of the small intestine. This is a look at the inside of it. It looks like little fingers on the inside of the small intestine. It's called the villi. And these little villi, these little fingers, as you can see here, what they absorb fat, water, nutrients, vitamins from the digestive system into the circulatory system. The leftovers, essentially anything that's not absorbed, so anything absorbed a lot of water, cellulose, which is indigestible plant matter, and some vitamins. um, I don't know. I already said that here. Sorry, undigestible stuff. That's not how you spell it. Undigestible. Where is it sent next after the small intestine? It is sent from the small intestine to the large intestine. It goes past the appendix. You can see in this image here. Small intestine, here's where it joins this area called a cecum. And here's the appendix. And it's the large intestine right here. The large intestine is also referred to as the colon. So colon cancer is cancer of the large intestine. Here's just the large intestine itself. It actually has 4 sections: the ascending colon, transverse, descending, and this little C curve here is called the sigmoid colon. It's called large intestine, not because it's longer, but because it has a larger diameter. It's a shorter length. I believe it's 1.5 meters in length. And its main job is to remove water. We already have it there. Remove water. Oops. To firm up the feces. Bring that water back into the body, firm up the feces. The colon also has lots of bacteria that aid in this process. Lastly, in the colon, the feces is produced, okay? What is feces composed of? The stuff that is undigestible, like when my dog eats a tennis ball, that shows up in her feces. Also, there's a lot of bacteria in feces. There is water, and there is mucus, okay, due to cells in the digestive tract. And the color and the smell is due to the bacteria and secretions of like the bile. The color. Also, the feces color can be altered based on what you eat, like beets can turn it a red color. So that is the end of the digestive system.